Amahle wanted everything to be perfect. Her husband, Thabiso, was finally coming back from Nairobi after 3 long months away for work. She had missed him deeply. Every phone call, every video chat only made her wish he was home. So she decided to give him the kind of welcome that would melt his heart. For days, she planned it all. She bought balloons in his favorite colors, gold and deep blue. She filled a small bag with his favorite snacks, roasted peanuts, dried mango slices, and those spicy chips he always craved. She even printed a sign that said, "Welcome home, my love," in big bold letters with tiny hearts drawn around it. She smiled as she practiced holding it up in front of the mirror, imagining his reaction. She pictured him walking out of the arrival gate, spotting her, dropping his bags, and rushing into her arms. Amahle picked out her outfit carefully. Nothing too flashy, just something he used to say made her glow. She even spritzed on the perfume he'd once called the smell of home. On the drive to the airport, her heart raced with excitement. She kept checking her phone to make sure his flight was still on time. She got there early, standing in the crowd with her balloons floating gently beside her. Every time someone walked out, she stood on her toes, looking for his face. Her heart felt full, ready to overflow with love. She had no idea what was waiting at gate C4. Even while Amahle was planning the surprise for Thabiso, something inside her didn't feel right. She had been ignoring it for weeks. The strange silence, the missed calls, the way his texts had started to feel cold. He used to text her, "Good morning, my queen," every day. Now sometimes he didn't text at all. And when she asked if everything was okay, he would say, "Just busy, babe." She told herself not to overthink it. He was working in another country after all. Long hours, new projects. It made sense, right? She tried to believe it. She tried to believe in him. Every time doubt crept in, she pushed it away and reminded herself, "You're just being paranoid. He loves you." But still, her heart didn't feel at peace. Sometimes at night, she would stare at the ceiling, wondering why her chest felt so heavy, why it felt like something was slipping through her fingers, even though she was holding on tightly. She remembered the one time he accidentally ended a call without saying, "I love you," and how he brushed it off like it didn't matter. But it mattered to her. Little things started adding up. She saw his smile in their video calls, but it didn't reach his eyes anymore. His laughter felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. She even asked him once, in a soft voice full of fear, "Are we okay?" And he had said, "Of course. Don't overthink." So she kept believing. She blamed herself for being too emotional. She told herself she was imagining things. After all, wasn't love supposed to be about trust? And she trusted him, or at least she wanted to. While she wrapped the snacks he liked and made sure the sign looked perfect, her hands moved with love, but her heart kept whispering something she didn't want to hear. She tried to silence it. She wanted this homecoming to be magical. She wanted to see his face light up with joy when he saw her at the airport. She wanted to feel his arms around her, warm and safe, like always. But deep down, something felt off. The feelings stayed with her, even as she stood waiting at the airport, clutching the sign, watching people walk past. Her heart was beating fast, not just with excitement, but with something else, fear. She didn't know what she was afraid of. She couldn't name it. She only knew that something felt different. And the truth, the one she had been trying to avoid, was waiting just a few steps away, right at gate C4. Amahle stood at the arrival gate with her heart racing. She held the colourful balloons in one hand and the sign in the other, eyes searching the crowd for Thabiso. Every time the airport doors opened, she stood on her toes, hoping it would be him. Her cheeks were sore from smiling so much. She imagined how happy he would be to see her, how he'd run into her arms. Her chest was full of love, of hope, of waiting. Then the doors opened again, and this time it was him. But something was wrong. Thabiso wasn't alone. Walking beside him, no, wrapped around him, was her best friend, Naledi. Amahle blinked, thinking maybe she was seeing it wrong. Maybe it was just a quick hello. But then she saw it clearly. Thabiso's arms around Naledi, a tight hug, not a polite one, a close one, too close. Naledi's face tilted towards his. They were whispering, laughing, smiling in a way that felt private. Their bodies moved together like this wasn't new to them, like this was normal. Amahle didn't move. Her feet felt glued to the floor. Her mouth went dry. Her fingers tightened on the sign she had made with so much love. The words, "Welcome home, my love," now felt like a cruel joke. She stared at them, frozen, as the world around her kept moving. People rushed past with luggage. Airport announcements echoed in the background, but everything felt far away. Her ears started to ring. Her heart was beating so loudly, she could barely hear anything else. She kept telling herself, this can't be real. But it was real. They hadn't even noticed her yet, or maybe they had, and they didn't care. That thought crushed her even more. Naledi, her best friend since high school, the one who knew every detail of her love story, the one who helped her pick out the welcome outfit, the one who always said, you and Thabiso are perfect together. Amahle felt something inside her crack. This wasn't just betrayal, it was betrayal from both sides, from the man she loved, and the friend she trusted like a sister. She couldn't speak, couldn't scream, couldn't even cry. The hurt was too deep, too sudden. She just stood there, watching the hug that shattered her world. In that one moment, everything changed. All the love, the planning, the dreams, they fell apart like glass on the airport floor. And as Thabiso and Naledi finally pulled apart and looked in her direction, Amahle turned away. She didn't want to see their faces. She didn't want answers. She just wanted to disappear. Amahle felt like the air had been knocked out of her. She couldn't breathe. Her chest was tight, her hands shaking, but her legs wouldn't move. Everything around her was a blur. People walking, talking, laughing, but she felt like she was trapped underwater, drowning. She stared at them for one more second. Thabiso and Naledi, still standing close, still sharing looks that said more than any words could. And then Thabiso's eyes met hers. Just for a moment, his smile faded. His face changed. Maybe he felt caught. Maybe he felt nothing at all. But Amahle didn't wait to find out. She turned around slowly, her feet heavy, like they were full of stones. The colourful balloons floated beside her, bumping gently against her arm. The sign she had made, "Welcome home, my love," was still in her hands. She didn't even look at it. She just held it tightly, like her fingers didn't know what else to do. People passed her, but no one noticed the storm inside her. No one saw that her heart had just broken in two. Her face was blank, empty, like someone had turned off all the lights inside her. She walked through the airport like a ghost. No tears, no words, just silence. She reached the parking lot and sat down on a bench, still holding the sign. Her hands gripped it tighter and tighter until the paper started to wrinkle, but she didn't care. She stared at the ground, eyes wide but unfocused. Everything she believed in had shattered. The man she loved, the woman she trusted, the home she had dreamed of rebuilding after the long distance. It was gone, all of it, just like that. One hug, one moment. That was all it took to burn down everything. She wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. Her body felt numb. Her soul felt too tired to even fall apart properly. Her heart had already done all the breaking it could do. Time passed, but she didn't notice. 10 minutes, maybe an hour. She didn't know. She just sat there, melting in silence, feeling like a part of her had died. She kept thinking, why? Why her? Why now? Why like this? But there were no answers, only silence, only the sound of her own heart, still beating somehow, even after it had been torn open. And in her lap, the welcome sign lay folded and crumpled, like a dream that would never come true. Amahle finally stood up, still quiet, still broken. She walked to her car, got in, and drove away, leaving behind the airport, the betrayal, and the girl who believed love was enough. She didn't know where she was going yet. She only knew one thing. She could never go back to who she was before Gate C4. Amahle didn't leave her room for days. She closed the curtains, turned off her phone, and just lay there, curled under the blanket like it could protect her from the pain. Everything hurt. Her heart, her head, her chest. It was like the betrayal lived in her bones now, and no amount of sleep or silence could make it go away. She kept replaying it all in her mind. Every laugh, every hug, every time Naledi had sat on her couch talking about girl code and loyalty. Every time Thabiso smiled and said, "You're the only one for me." She remembered how she had told people, "Naledi is like a sister to me," and how Thabiso had said more than once, "She's just a friend. Why are you overthinking?" Now she saw it clearly. The long messages between them that she thought were harmless. The little looks. The way Thabiso stopped calling every night. How Naledi had stopped visiting as often, only to suddenly show up the day he came back. The betrayal was sharp, It cut from both sides. It wasn't just losing her man, it was losing her best friend. It felt like the ground had opened up and swallowed the world she thought she knew. And so, she broke. Amahle cried until she couldn't anymore. Her pillow was soaked, her voice was gone, her body felt empty, like everything inside her had been poured out. But something strange happened in that darkness. In the middle of all the pain, there was a tiny spark, a small voice in her heart, quiet but steady, that said, "You're still here." She sat up one morning and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale, but behind all of that, she saw someone still standing, still breathing, still alive, and that was something. So she let the world break. She didn't fight the pain anymore. She let herself feel every bit of it. She stopped pretending to be okay. She stopped holding it together for other people. She stopped explaining the betrayal to anyone who asked. She just let it all fall apart. And in that space, where everything had crumbled, something new began to grow. She picked up her sketchbook for the first time in months. It was dusty and untouched. She flipped through old designs, ones she had drawn when she still believed in love. Her hand hesitated, then picked up a pencil. Slowly, she began to draw again. Lines turned into shapes. Shapes turned into dresses. She didn't know why. She only knew it made her feel something again. The world she once knew was gone, but maybe, just maybe, she could build a new one. Not for Thabiso, not for Naledi, for herself. Amahle didn't tell anyone she was leaving. Not her neighbors, not her old friends, not even her parents. Not until she was already on the road. She packed her clothes, her sewing machine, her sketchbooks, and the pieces of her broken heart into one suitcase. That was all she had. No plan, no job waiting, just a quiet dream, and too much pain to stay where everything reminded her of betrayal. She chose Kumasi because no one there knew her story. No one would look at her with pity. No one would ask, "Have you spoken to Thabiso?" Or, "What happened with Naledi?" She wanted peace. She wanted silence. She wanted to start again. Just her and the fabric. Her first few days in the small rented room were lonely. The space was bare, no decorations, no furniture besides a bed and a plastic table, but it was hers. And that meant something. She took out her sewing machine and placed it by the window. The light that came through each morning felt warm on her skin, like a quiet encouragement to keep going. She started sketching again, not because she wanted to impress anyone, but because it helped her breathe. She poured every feeling, every heartbreak, every memory into her designs. Then one day, she took a deep breath and posted a picture of a dress she had made on social media. Just one post, just one caption, handmade with healing. To her surprise, someone messaged her. A woman asked, "Can you make one for me too?" Amahle said yes. That was her first order. She stitched it carefully, thread by thread, like she was mending not just fabric but herself. When she delivered it, the woman smiled wide and said, "You have a gift." Those 4 words lit a tiny fire in her. More orders came, not a flood, but a slow, steady stream. One client told another, and then another. She started saving every little bit she earned, buying better fabric, better tools. She worked from her tiny room during the day and fell asleep at night, surrounded by dresses and dreams. Some days were hard. She still had moments where memories rushed in like waves. She still had nights where she cried quietly into her pillow. But every time she finished a dress, she felt stronger. Every time someone wore her work and smiled, she healed a little more. She was building a new life, one stitch, one step at a time. Not from happiness, but from pain. Not from love, but from loss. And that made it even more powerful, because this time, no one was handing it to her. She was creating it all on her own. Amahle never imagined how far her pain would take her. What started as quiet healing turned into something powerful. Her designs, born in a small room in Kumasi, began to speak for her louder than words ever could. Each dress she made carried a piece of her story. Grief stitched into elegance, heartbreak turned into bold beauty. She didn't just sew fabric, she sewed emotion, strength, fire. She gave her little business a name, Amahle Styles, simple, personal, strong. At first, she wrote it with chalk on her apartment wall as motivation, but slowly, it started to grow beyond that wall. One client turned into 5, 5 turned into 50. A local TV presenter wore one of her dresses on air and tagged her on social media. That one post brought in hundreds of messages overnight. People wanted to know, who designed this? Where can I get one? Who is Amahle Styles? She worked day and night, her fingers sore from sewing, but her heart full. She barely had time to rest, but she didn't complain. She needed the work, not just for money, but for healing, for purpose. A minister's wife reached out next, then a singer, then a famous actress. Amahle didn't have a fancy studio yet, but her talent spoke louder than location. People came to her not just because her designs were stunning, but because they felt something when they wore them. They felt powerful, like Amahle did, slowly. Every time she completed another piece, she started using richer fabrics, silk, velvet, lace. Every new design told a story, a woman rising, a woman reclaiming herself, a woman no longer defined by betrayal. Her most loved dress was a black and gold gown she named The Comeback. It went viral. Everyone wanted it. Some called it a revenge dress. Amahle just smiled. She didn't need to explain, because deep down, every dress she made was revenge. Not loud or messy, but quiet, beautiful, sharp. Revenge in silk. She never spoke publicly about what had happened with Thabiso and Naledi. She didn't need to. Her success answered everything. Her work became her voice, and the world was finally listening. Within a year, Amahle Styles wasn't just a name. It was a brand. It was a movement. It was a symbol. People who once overlooked her were now lining up to wear her work. Fashion magazines called. Stylists begged to collaborate. Women sent her thank you messages saying, "Your dresses make me feel alive again." And every time she heard those words, Amahle knew one thing. She had turned her deepest wound into her greatest power. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And that was her greatest design of all. The email came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Amahle was finishing the final stitches on a cream silk gown when she saw the notification on her phone. It was an invitation to showcase Amahle Styles at an international fashion show in Nairobi. Her fingers froze. Nairobi. Just the name made her chest tighten. Her eyes stayed on the screen. Her breath caught between excitement and something heavier. The last time she had thought about that city, it was filled with pain, with betrayal, with them. She placed her phone down and walked away, trying to pretend like it didn't matter. But the email stayed in her mind, loud and heavy. That city held memories she had buried deep. Gate C4, the sign in her hands, Naledi's laugh, Thabiso's arms around someone who wasn't her, her knees weak in an airport full of strangers. Why Nairobi? She wanted to delete the email. She even opened the draft to reply with a polite, "Thank you, but I'll have to decline." But her fingers wouldn't type the words. Something inside her whispered, "Go." She ignored it for days, but it didn't stop. Every night, as she lay in bed, the thought came back stronger. You're not the same woman you were. This time you walk in different. So, one morning, she opened her laptop and accepted the invitation. It was terrifying, but also freeing. She had grown, changed, become someone new. And maybe Nairobi needed to see that. Not to prove anything to them, but to herself. When she landed in the city, it felt like returning to the scene of a fire after you've rebuilt your house. There were ghosts in the air, yes, but she was no longer afraid of them. She stood taller, walked stronger. Her luggage wasn't just full of clothes, it was full of courage. The fashion show was 3 days away, and the venue was breathtaking. Lights, cameras, international designers, big names. Yet, when Amahle stepped into the space, everyone looked at her. Her designs turned heads. Her presence was calm, graceful, powerful, like she belonged there, and she did. The night before the show, she sat alone in her hotel room, looking out at the city lights. She thought about the girl who once left this city shattered, and she smiled, because now she had returned not as someone searching for love, but as a woman who had found herself. This show wasn't about fame or applause. It was about closure. It was about walking back into the place that once broke her and standing tall inside it. The city hadn't changed, but Amallay had. And this time, she wasn't the one waiting at the gate. She was the one everyone else was coming to see. The lights dimmed. Music started. The crowd leaned forward, waiting. Backstage, Amahle stood still, hands calm, eyes focused. She had done hundreds of shows by now, but this one felt different. This was the show, the one in the very city where her world had once fallen apart. But now, She was walking into the fire she had once run from, and this time she wasn't afraid to burn. One by one, her models stepped onto the runway, each of them dressed in pieces from her newest collection: silk, velvet, gold embroidery, sharp cuts, bold colors. Every dress told a story of strength, of heartbreak, of healing. The music thumped softly like a heartbeat, and as the models walked, the room began to shift. People were whispering, gasping, clapping. Amahle stood backstage, watching her designs float down the runway like poetry in motion. But she already knew what was happening in the front row, because her assistant had warned her. Thabiso was there, and so was Naledi, sitting side by side, not talking, not smiling, just there, like strangers dressed in old memories. Amahle didn't need to see them to feel their presence. But she didn't flinch. She didn't look for their faces because she didn't come for them. She came for her. When her final model stepped out, a tall woman in a deep red gown with a long train and gold stone neckline, the room went silent. It was the dress everyone had been whispering about during rehearsals. A piece Amahle called the unbroken, powerful, graceful, untouchable. The moment the model reached the end of the runway and turned, the crowd stood. One by one, they rose. Ministers, celebrities, designers, people Amahle had once only dreamed of meeting. The applause was thunder. The cameras flashed non-stop. People were shouting her name, but Amahle stayed calm. She stepped out only after the applause grew louder, not rushing, not needing to prove anything. She walked slowly, confidently, wearing a simple black-fitted jumpsuit of her own design. Elegant, sharp, no nonsense. Her hair was pulled back, her face bare except for a soft red lip. She looked like a woman who had survived the storm and come out glowing. As she walked past the front row, she felt it, the weight of their eyes. Thabiso and Naledi, both staring at her, neither smiling, their hands not even close to touching. She didn't glance their way, not even for a second, because they were part of her past, and she was standing in her future. The crowd roared louder, and for the first time in a long time, Amahle smiled. Not a small smile, a full one that reached all the way to the girl who once cried behind a crumpled welcome sign. The walk ended, but her story was just beginning, and now the whole world was watching. After the show, the backstage buzz was wild, people hugging her, praising her, calling her the moment. Reporters wanted interviews, designers wanted meetings, and stylists begged for her next pieces. But in the middle of all the noise, Amahle saw him, Thabiso, standing alone near the exit, unsure, awkward. His eyes met hers for a second. She saw it all: regret, confusion, maybe even guilt. For a brief moment, time slowed, like the universe wanted to see what she would do. He walked toward her. "Amahle," he said quietly, "can we talk?" She looked at him calmly. No anger, no pain, just stillness. She smiled softly, the same way you smile at someone you once knew, someone who used to matter. Then she shook her head and said, "No need." He blinked, caught off guard. "Just 5 minutes. There's nothing left to say," she replied, still smiling. "It's all behind me now." And she meant it, because this wasn't revenge. This wasn't some dramatic movie moment where she needed him to beg or explain. She didn't want his apology. She didn't need his reasons. That version of her, the one who waited with balloons and hope, was gone. She had already found her closure. It wasn't in his words. It was in her journey, her healing, her growth, her success. So she turned, walking away, heels clicking against the floor like music. Not because she was cold, but because she was free. And peace, she had learned, was the best kind of ending.